I just pressed the let's go live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started. We got to make sure the tubes are working. You know how sometimes the tubes get a little bit, fetted up over the weekends. But it looks like they're working now, which is great. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name's Robert Govea. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Devon Archer testimony. He was in front of Congress for a good portion of the day, at least the first part of the morning into the afternoon, and we've got to break down exactly what happened here. We've got 3 different segments on this. I want to break it up into a couple different parts. First and foremost, the shenanigans that happened yesterday and the day before. We know Devon Archer was scheduled to testify today, and then the DOJ sent a very curious letter, and you can be the judge of this. People are taking this both ways. They sent a very curious letter to him, reminding him about an upcoming self-surrender date. And, it's a very convenient letter to send to somebody who you're going to be taking into custody. You're going to be saying that we're going to be in control of you and your life for the foreseeable future, just reminding you as you go in there to testify. So we'll take a look at that letter. We'll ask ourselves, was it a coincidence? Kay Bean in the chat said that this morning during our members only stream that, they did this type of crap with Matt Taibbi when they sent IRS agents to his house. We also have Congressional outrage. James Comer, as soon as that letter dropped, they hit the ceiling. Comer flipped out. A bunch of Congress people flipped out. We've got this dog pile happening here. There was this funny Twitter chain that was happening about all these Congress people just like dogpiling on top of one another, which I know is a really bad visual, but it was happening on Twitter digitally, which is also a bad visual. But the point is, they said, one of them said, I'm going to go and start something. And another one said, make that 2, make that 3, make that 4 was Harriet Hageman, make it 5 was Dan Bishop. And it was just, things were a little bit crazy last night. Devon Archer's lawyer said, no, I'm showing up to testify. And then lo and behold, after all the outrage, the DOJ just clarified everything. They just, no. We were talking about a later future self-surrender date. We never meant to cause a bunch of ruckus. Everybody in Congress calm down. And so we'll go through that. Very, very convenient activity from the DOJ. Then we have another segment because the testimony actually took place today. And there's some interesting takeaways from this. Dan Goldman, who bought himself a Congress seat in New York, not that bright though, he came out to talk about his reaction to this. And he says, no. I mean, yes, they talked all the time. Yes, some of those calls involved Hunter's business associates, but no, there was no evidence that Joe had anything to do with this. And the only thing they talked about was really the weather anyways. So the weather, right? Whatever that happens to mean. So we'll go through that. We have more there. Chad Pergram is a correspondent over on Fox News, and he put together a nice thread with some other insider details on what happened here. And then we've got Comer, who also issued a reaction on this today. And I think there was another statement that just dropped from the House Oversight Committee or from the House Judiciary Committee as well. So we'll take a look at that. Then we've got a new letter. This one is fresh out of the oven for us and for our delicious enjoyment. Jim Jordan is sending a letter over to Merrick Garland, the Department of Justice, demanding answers about the scam plea deal that his office concocted for the benefit of Joe Biden's son. What the heck happened here? Jim Jordan on the Judiciary Committee wants to know, and Marjorie Taylor Greene bubbled up some old text messages between Hunter and Devon and the Biden crime family. All of that, of course, is coming up. But we're going to start the show today with a little bit of an update on the Trump cases, because he posted on Truth today, any day now, it's coming in. And I agree with him. I thought it was going to drop maybe Friday last week, but this week feels like it is more likely. And I know that because it didn't happen last week. That's my logical deduction there. So that means it's more likely to happen this week. And it is likely to happen on a Tuesday or a Thursday, because that's when the actual grand juries convene. So we've got some updates on that. I want to walk us through what happened out of the Georgia Supreme Court, because they denied Trump his request. He was trying to quash the special grand jury which was convened by Fani Willis, who we know here as the biggest Fani in Georgia. And if anybody knows anybody, in a higher up position, anybody bigger than Fani Willis, I'd love to know if there's a bigger Fani in Georgia than Fani Willis. I can't think of one. Help me if you can. But she says, I'm not even worried about the January 6th prosecution that's being brought by Jack Smith. I'm only just worried about myself. I don't even know who Jack Smith is, which is a very interesting comment because they have very, overlapping cases, as it were. We'll go through that. Now, big part of lawfare is waging political war against Trump using the law, using the DOJ, and causing him to spend a ton of money. They've done that. $40 million in legal fees is just a recent figure that has come out that Donald Trump has spent on this. And if Trump is spending $40 million on legal fees, that means that's $40 million that's not going to campaign staff, that's not going to get out the vote, that's not going to be useful during an election, and that's a big problem. So this is part of the strategy. They are working hard on it. And then we're going to finish up with Alina Habba because she now has a new role at the Trump organization, and she's going to be responding to this superseding indictment, and she's going to give us an update on how Trump's doing. Is he doing okay? There's a lot of stuff happening right now, flying indictments all around, superseding indictments, Georgia indictment, DC indictment. How's he doing? She'll give us an update, and of course, her brilliant legal analysis as well. And so, my friends, as you can see, we've got a lot to get to today. If you were a member this morning, we would have been able to spend some time together talking about this bizarre story. Chinese biolab busted in California. And I was wondering, is this really a Chinese biolab? What's the evidence that it's Chinese? And when we got to the end of this segment this morning, yeah, there's all these Chinese shell companies with addresses over in China. And there was this empty building. And inside of it, there was all sorts of disgusting stuff that is not good, that you probably don't want in an unlicensed Chinese biolab, So we talked about that story, and we'll be curious to see if our government tells us about it at all, if they get around to it. I know they're busy with January 6th arrests. So we've got that for our members. Thank you to our members who joined us over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is the best place to go if you want to support the show. We very much appreciate it. We do member-only streams in the morning. We have a members-only Telegram, and it's a ton of fun. There's a great community there. We would love to have you. You can also join up on YouTube, and you get a lot of the same stuff. We just asked you join the private Telegram for our members-only chat, which takes place after the show in our after party. Also, don't forget to check out robertgovea.com. This is our brand new website. I'm excited about it. We are building it out actively. Many of you have used the Contact Us form and said hello to us, and thank you for doing that. We've got the various reports. All of the videos are summarized here for us, so you can review it at your leisure if you want to read something rather than watch something. All of these are stories, and you can get the report, read through the headlines, and stay up to speed. And share these stories with your friends, share them with family. If you'd like to get a copy of the mind map, just enter your name and email right here on the sidebar, and you can get access to this exact mind map, my friends, the exact mind map that we're using right here, this one exactly. So if you want the links, the PDFs, any of the files you see here, that's how to get them. Now, before we get into this very delicious, very nutritious Devon Archer testimony, we got to make sure we have our Field of Greens, courtesy of our friends at fieldofgreens.com. And my friends, if you have not gone over there yet and just taken a look at the ingredients on the back of the label, you'll see there's all sorts of good stuff in there that is useful for what we do, because we're all sick of losing those, hearing those ads for weight loss pills and fat diets. We'd all like to lose a little bit of those leftover pandemic pounds, but we've all tried a bunch of stuff. We know that a lot of it just doesn't work, but eating right does, especially 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, and then the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, I know, fruit, it's a lot of work. Stuff goes bad pretty quickly. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens, because it is a science-backed formula, specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. We know that proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when you walk into your doctor's office and he takes one look at you and says, "Whoa, baby, You are looking great. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. You're going to go right on home and you're just going to load up your cart on fieldofgreens.com with more delicious, real organic superfood, courtesy of our friends at fieldofgreens.com. And my friends, don't forget to use code Robert when you go over there so that you save 15% off on your first order. And let's not forget the vegetables, they really want to be eaten. Okay, that's why they're here. That's why they burst out of the ground so colorful and delicious looking. Eat me is what they say. All right, let's get into it. Trump issues a new warning saying any day now, the January 6th indictment could be coming. And we've long been suspecting it was going to be any day now. We've actually been surprised it's taking this long because we've got some competing indictments now. We've got Georgia, which is apparently coming any minute now also. And we've got these two prosecutions, one at the federal level, one at the state level, about to launch at the same time. And what do they say? Well, we have to break it down. We've got Fani Willis, who is leading the Georgia prosecution, and she apparently is not even coordinating with Jack Smith at all. And the Georgia Supreme Court just gave her the green light to move her prosecution forward. And so if Jack Smith doesn't go soon, she's going, and that might interfere with what Jack Smith is doing. And so the whole thing is just a mess, like the rest of these prosecutions. But this is part of their strategy. They want to bleed the Trump campaign dry, bleed his staff, his finances to the bone so that they cannot be used on other efforts like getting out the vote or spending money on commercials or fundraising or policy development or any of the other things that happens in a campaign. But Trump said it's coming, and he posted this on True Social. He said, I assume that an indictment from deranged Jack Smith and his highly partisan gang of thugs pertaining to my, quote, peacefully and patriotically speech will be coming out any day now as yet another attempt to cover up all of the bad news about bribes, payoffs, extortion coming from the Biden camp. This seems to be the way they do it. Election interference, prosecutorial misconduct. Exclamation, exclamation. And of course, we know that the grand jury is meeting soon. And the Hill tells us it could be Tuesday, it could be Thursday as this thing heats up. They posted this. They say target letters have already gone out. A number of Trump officials have testified in recent weeks. Prosecutors are still interested in whether Trump acknowledged that he had lost the election. If Trump said to somebody, look, I know I lost, but do that thing anyways, then that is Trump committing fraud. And they're digging hard to squeeze that out of somebody. Prosecutors are said to have been interested in this for a while. Trump pursued, they call it a multi-pronged plan to remain in office. Former President Trump's attorneys met last week with officials from Jack Smith's office. Trump called it a productive meeting as they tried to stop him from bringing charges. But a grand jury meets Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so we're going to be extra perked up on Tuesday and Thursday of this week to see if anything happens on the January 6th case. But that is just the next indictment on the list. We've also got the Georgia prosecution, which is heating up as well. But some interesting things are happening here. No coordination between the feds and the state, which is a little bit different than what we've seen in other jurisdictions. We know that in New York, for example, Alvin Bragg has deferred or has indicated that he will defer to Jack Smith's prosecution. When you've got people with multiple criminal charges, they can't be in two trials at the same time. Trump can't be in a New York trial the same time he's in a Florida trial, the same time he's in a Georgia trial, the same time he's in a DC trial. And so what happens is when that situation arises, prosecutors will often say, I will defer to you. You bring your case first. You have the strongest case, or however they want to organize it. In this case, because it's the federal government versus the state government, the feds reign supreme. So Bragg is taking the sideline, allowing Jack Smith to go forward. What's happening here in Georgia? Not so much that. It's very strange. Fulton DA says she's not coordinating with special counsel Jack Smith, and she warns of safety risks as indictments loom. And here is Fani The biggest Fani in Georgia. And, I look around in these photos to see if there's somebody who, who's a higher up person than her, and I don't see anybody. Sometime in the next 3 weeks, Fulton County DA is expected to ask a grand jury to indict multiple people, so it's not just Trump. July 31st is the first of 10 days between now and August 18th that Willis has instructed most of her staff to work remotely. You guys don't even come into the office. That's how dangerous it's going to be. That window comes as the U.S. DOJ, with Jack Smith, is also preparing to bring charges for January 6th. Willis says that the two investigations have not coordinated. She said the following. She said, "I don't know what Jack Smith is doing, and Jack Smith doesn't know what I'm doing," Willis told Wabe, W-A-B-E, in a Saturday interview. She says, "In all honesty, if Jack Smith was standing next to me, I'm not sure I would know who he was. My guess is he probably can't pronounce my name correctly." Oh, I don't know what's so hard about it. It's Fani, right? I'm pretty sure it's Fani. I mean, I heard Rachel Maddow call her Fani. Very weird way she said it. Fani, like Fani Willis. And it's like, Rachel, that's not accurate. You're wrong about that, just like everything else you're wrong about. God, golly, it's very easy. F-A-N-I. Fani Willis. All right, former President Trump, who is also a focus of Fulton County probe, received a target letter in the federal investigation. We know that. Charging decisions are looming in D.C. and Atlanta. Orange security barriers went up around the courthouse on Thursday. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office is proactively coordinating with local agencies. Some of the measures we're deploying will be obvious to the public. Trump's already been indicted twice now. Has anything happened at all? There's that one guy with the air horn, which was very annoying. As those security measures began to take effect, Willis spent Saturday handing out backpacks stuffed with school supplies. She mingled with staffers as they handed out backpacks. Willis says constituents absolutely ask about the Trump probe. She says she can't answer them. We've got other concerns like, gang violence. Yeah, that's a small little thing next to this Trump insurrection. She says, we're not one-dimensional, right? I can do that case and make sure that justice is served, but while making sure, as you see, the murder rate is dropping in Atlanta. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, she says. Some critics of Willis's probe have questioned whether devoting these significant resources to potentially prosecuting Trump will come at a cost of a backlog of violent crime. Is it worth it? Willis says she never doubted whether the probe was worthwhile. Absolutely not. There are some moments that are troubling and concerning, she said, but those moments are based on some of the racist comments that get sent to me. Oh, gosh. Either via voicemail or email or on social media. It saddens me. Oh, this racist, bunch. Oh, gosh. Willis says she sent an email to county commissioners on Saturday instructing them to make sure they're keeping themselves and their staff safe, and included a taste of the hateful messages she receives. Now, I don't endorse any racist comments or any racism, and I've made this warning many times. Calling and leaving voicemails to elected officials or threatening elected officials on text messages, or Joe Biden was doing that trap where he said, text me what you think of me on his Twitter account. Just text me your thoughts on my existence. Dangerous, very dangerous. They will arrest and prosecute people for those crimes. I guarantee people are being contacted from that list. So we always discourage this, but I just love how everything always devolves to racism for some reason. Willis's email included a recent messages. Somebody called her a corrupt expletive. You're going to fail. Expletive. This is serious, Willis says. We have people, unfortunately, that think like this. It's kind of foreign to me. I have this really diverse office, right? She says. We serve this diverse community. Diverse people chose me. But yet we have people that are still so ignorant. And so, I have to deal with that reality. But that reality will not deter me from my work. Now, the judge in Georgia, the Supreme Court, Trump was trying to stop this case from moving forward. On Monday, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney rejected Trump's motion, refused to grant a similar one earlier in the month. Let's take a look at that filing. Here it is. Donald Trump's team in Georgia submitted a motion to quash the special grand jury to stop the investigation that was bubbling up against Trump in Georgia. They wanted to ask everybody who was involved to recuse themselves and to preclude certain evidence. There was a motion filed, oral arguments. This is the ruling. This is what clears the road, green lights Fani's efforts. And here is what the filing says from the Superior Court, Fulton County, state of Georgia. It says on March 20th of this year, Trump filed a motion to quash the grand jury, to stop them, to stop the state from using any evidence that they got. The grand jury issued subpoenas, went and got evidence, interviewed people, and so on. So preclude them from using the evidence and disqualify Fani's office from further investigation. Now, we're crossing into this new era in America where things are now, there's a new threshold that has been crossed where we are prosecuting openly our political enemies. Joe Biden runs the DOJ, hates Trump, has made statements on the record. We're going to stop him and stuff like that. Well, he's doing it using his DOJ. And so we have this new problem that the courts are going to have to grapple with, which are naked and outright political prosecutions in this country. And it's going to be very difficult for the courts to deviate from the default presumption that the DA's office is legitimate. I mean, what's the court going to say? The whole DA's office is disqualified? It's a huge order. And so Trump is asking for that. Now, from the judge's perspective, that's a huge ask. But it's almost an unprecedented ask. But we're also in unprecedented times. And so Trump is asking for things to correct a catastrophic failure of the executive branch, which is to operate within the confines and not go outside of the bounds of the rules of American precedents, which is that we don't prosecute our political enemies in this country. If they're going to break those bounds, Trump is saying this is a tainted partisan political prosecutor's office. The whole thing needs to be disqualified. But you can just feel how big of an ask that is. So Trump makes that request. On April of this year, one of the alternate presidential electors advanced by Georgia's Republican Party after 2020 filed a motion joining Trump's motion. Get rid of this special grand jury. The DA responded, Fani, with 2 motions, and the media did the same. A bunch of other people filed motions, and the record was complete. Having reviewed the pleadings, everything that we just discussed, the court now finds that neither Trump nor Latham, the elector, enjoys standing to even mount a challenge at this pre-indictment phase of the proceedings. So Trump hasn't been charged yet. They're just investigating. They can continue to do this. They say that Trump and their injuries, quote, that would open the doors of the courthouse to their claims are insufficient. The judge says they are insufficient because while being the subject of a highly publicized criminal investigation is certainly unwelcome and unpleasant, yeah, it sucks being charged with a crime. Excuse my language. No court ever has held that that status alone is the basis to interfere with or halt the investigation. Trump knew this, and now Latham does too. No doubt the threat of prosecution can weigh heavily on anyone's mind, but without diminishing the seriousness of the burden, the ordinary experience cannot support extraordinary jurisdiction. The court doesn't have the ability to tell them to stop doing what they're doing. That's their job, is to investigate crimes. Now, this is new territory because, again, this is presuming that these agencies are operating legitimately. And every time they prosecute Trump, they undermine their own legitimacy. And eventually that will have consequences. Now, when that consequence reaches the court is a whole separate story, if ever. We don't know. But the judge continues. They say that the professed injuries from Trump are also speculative and unrealized. He hasn't been harmed yet. There is no even indictment yet. They're just theorizing about evidence that they got. They don't even know what they've got. So the possibility that they might be charged is not enough. They say that Trump alleges that information that the grand jury got is fatally tainted because of some missteps by the supervising judge and the grand jury. He says that's not enough. And there are sound policy reasons to defer these complaints until the indictment. So just because Trump loses now doesn't mean that maybe these claims aren't valid later. But at this early stage, it's just not ready. Prosecution is an executive function. The judicial branch should involve itself sparingly and delicately in the work that precedes the formal charges. After the charges are brought, the locus of power and authority and jurisdiction, then it shifts to the courts. Right. And this is where you can see them using this like both a sword and a shield. When Hunter Biden is being charged with crimes, they keep him under the purview, under the wing of the DOJ, which is the executive branch. Then, when they let go of it, when they try to bring it over into the courts with Hunter to resolve everything, it turned into a giant catastrophe. The whole plea deal exploded because the courts operated as this fair and neutral arbiter that was exposing this corrupt deal. And so that principle stays here as well. If the court were to interfere at that early stage, it's stepping outside of bounds, essentially. Arguments like those being made here in the pending motions have already been ruled upon. Guessing at what the picture might look like before the dots are connected might be a popular game for the media and the blogosphere, but it's not a proper role for the courts. There will be a time and place where Trump can raise his issues, but that is not now. If anything results from the grand jury, should either or both be indicted, they can raise all these issues later. So they're saying they're not going to be quashing this special grand jury. Unnecessary to go into a deeper analysis here. And they're also not going to disqualify Fani. Trump and Latham seek to have the DA Fani and her office disqualified from any involvement. This is a bold request, they say. A significant showing must be made to grant this uncommon relief. There are two primary grounds for disqualifying a prosecuting attorney. It's tough. Conflict of interest and forensic misconduct. Neither has been shown here. The conflicts of interest that typically suffice to support a motion to disqualify rise when a prosecutor previously represented a defendant, when she consulted with a defendant, when there's been some sort of work, or forensic misconduct when they, Forensic misconduct occurs, for example, when the prosecutor improperly expresses, quote, her personal belief in the defendant's guilt. Has Fani not done that? We can't find a clip of Fani out there saying Trump's guilty. None of that has happened yet. There's no evidence or even contention that the DA ever represented Trump, so no conflict, nor is there evidence of any direct financial conflict. Neither movement have pointed to any averments by the DA or her team of lawyers expressing belief that Trump is guilty. Wow. Rather, the consistent and persistent theme has been pursuing the evidence where it leads, holding everyone accountable, no one being above the law. The drumbeat has been neither partisan in the political sense, nor personal, in marked and refreshing contrast to the stream of personal invective, flowing from one of the movements. That's a dig at Trump. Oh, that's a Trump dig. This judge is saying, no, Fani's fantastic. She's been just a consummate professional, totally. And Trump has been degrading this case with a constant stream of personal invective flowing from his thumbs. Wow, untruth. Put differently, the DA's office has been doing a fairly routine, legally unobjectionable job of PR in a case that's anything but routine. Tell that to the DOJ. They keep saying this is a regular, routine, ordinary case. That's not even a big deal. None of what Trump cites rises to the level of justifying disqualification. All of it falls short. The prosecutor is not a neutral party, doesn't need to pretend to be. She has a cause she is sworn to pursue. And in pursuit of justice, right, she is necessarily a partisan in the case. If she were compelled to proceed with the same circumspection as the judge and the jury, she wouldn't be a prosecutor. Therefore, Trump, your motions are denied. And so this will move forward, and Fani has now a green light to just prosecute away, and certainly she will. And the question is when. And meanwhile, as all this goes on, we've got people like Adam Schiff and Psaki who are celebrating from the rooftops. They love this legal warfare, this battle that marches on. It consumes time, it consumes money and energy. And money is a big component of this, because if they can tie up $40 million in the courts with lawyers and defense teams and all the costs associated with defending yourself against 4 indictments, I don't know how many civil lawsuits, very expensive. And they can't use that for other services like hiring people, spending on commercials, social media ads, developing the message, getting out the vote. It's all part of the plan. $
40 million of legal costs for Trump was spent by his PACs and by his essentially entities paying for his campaign just this year alone. What was your reaction when you saw that?
Well, it is eye-popping, but it also shows, I think, by one powerful metric, how much Donald Trump's running for presidency is part of his strategy to keep out of jail. This is all about the hope that he becomes the next office holder and he can make all these legal problems go away as the next president. And he's willing to spend, whatever campaign contributions come his way to represent anyone that is deemed loyal to him. And the problem with this is we saw in the January 6th investigation how Trump appointed defense counsel for witnesses. In one case in particular, we're suggesting to a witness, hey, you should say you don't remember these things, even if you do remember them. It allows the Trump defense team basically to get their stories. Control them, to get their stories all aligned, to coach witnesses to say they forgot things that they do remember. So it's problematic from a point of justice point of view, but I think this is what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it'd be weird if you had, like some massive entity that had the ability to put a ton of insane leverage on people, threaten them with prison for the rest of their lives, threaten lawyers with not getting judgeships, literally create deals for the president's son that let him walk free while offering simultaneous deals to other people that lock them up. This is exactly what the DOJ is doing, exactly what the Biden DOJ is doing every single day. 4 indictments, multiple civil suits brought by people prosecuting Trump for made up 20-year-old stories, in my humble opinion. And they couldn't be happier about it. And as is the usual norm, when they're doing something, they turn around and blame the other side. They say, see what they're doing. Meanwhile, they're doing it behind our backs. So we've also got Alina Habba, who, as we know, is a brilliant legal commentator, works with the Trump team. She was out on the Sunday shows defending the superseding indictment, which dropped. The superseding indictment, as we know, added a new defendant and new charges in the Donald Trump classified documents case taking place out of Florida. Here is Trump Representative Ms. Habba discussing.
Nomination for the White House facing intense legal pressure. Indictments in 2 cases and under investigation in at least 2 others. New charges this week in a case that accuses him of mishandling classified documents, and potential indictments in a case alleging attempts to overturn the 2020 election, including January 6th and alleged interference in Georgia, where this week barricades were placed outside the Fulton County Courthouse ahead of possible charges there. Joining us now, Alina Habba, legal spokesperson for former President Trump and general counsel for the Save America Leadership PAC. Alina, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, so let's start here. The president said on Thursday he felt his legal team, attorneys had had good meetings with the Justice Department, but by that afternoon, he had been indicted on new federal criminal charges. Was that a shock to you? Are you bracing for the next indictment?
Yeah, nothing is a shock to me anymore coming out from this Department of Justice, this Biden administration. As President Trump mentioned, meritless Garland, group of people. Let's be clear, this is election interference. So, no, the charges are never a surprise to us because they can't stop him. He's got 18% turned of independence towards Trump. And this is what happens when you're winning in the polls and the Democrats can't win. They have nothing left to do.
Okay, let's talk about another poll. This one comes out this week showing a majority of Americans, 51%, now do believe that President Trump did something illegal. Another 27% think he did something at least unethical. So how do you overcome that perception with jurors? That's the first step, and also with voters.
I think with the facts. So let's talk about the facts, which the American people need to know. In that indictment, the new superseding indictment that came out, which they tried to get another headline for President Trump, was facts that said that President Trump did what? What was the obstruction of justice? Because no tapes were deleted. He turned them over. He cooperated, as he always does. But they would like the American public to believe in these bogus indictments that there are some facts that say that President Trump was obstructing justice. When he has his turn in court and when we get to file our papers, you will see that every single video, every single surveillance tape that was requested was turned over. If President Trump didn't want something turned over, I assure you, that is something that could have been done, but he never would act like that. Okay, he is the most ethical American I know.
Let's talk about the indictment, because you bring this up, and there are allegations now that he, with a couple of other employees at Mar-a-Lago, had conversations. There are allegations about trying to get rid of surveillance video once it was under subpoena. So let me read from the indictment. This is the new superseding indictment. D. Oliveira, the property manager there at Mar-a-Lago, told Trump employee 4 that, quote, the boss wanted the server deleted. This is where the surveillance video was. Trump employee 4 responded that he would not know how to do that and that he did not believe he had the rights to do that. Trump employee 4 told D. Oliveira that D. Oliveira would have to reach out to another employee who was a supervisor of security for Trump's business organization. D. Oliveira then insisted to Trump employee 4 that, quote, the boss wanted the server deleted and asked, what are we going to do? You rightly say that the tapes were turned over. I mean, they're in custody of the Justice Department. But the question is, was there an attempt to try to make sure that didn't happen?
Well, let's be clear. If there was an attempt by somebody who lives in a home, take out President Trump, who owns a company, he owns it, he owns the IT, he pays for all these employees. If there was an attempt for him to not turn over documents or he wanted something deleted, do you not think that that's something he couldn't have gotten done? Let's just use common sense.
Does it sound
I think
like
the American public
an
forgets
effort
to use common sense.
I mean, that's the allegation, is that he did try to talk to these employees, and that these employees said, we may have to talk to someone else. I don't know that I can even do that.
Shannon, I know the facts, and the facts are when President Trump gets a subpoena, it goes to the organization turns it over. That is what actually happened. I've been an attorney for the president during this whole process, and I can assure you that that is not the case.
Okay, well, innocent until proven guilty. He will have his day in court, and we will watch as that plays out. Alina, thank you for joining us again.
Thanks, Alina.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Brilliant legal analysis as per usual. And it's an interesting conversation. I mean, we don't really know the details from what we read in the indictment of the server, what was on the server, and then we want to see what the scope of the subpoena was, in other words. And there's a lot of gray area there, and it's a lot of we're asking ourselves, who are the witnesses? If they're charging that guy, De Oliveira, with a crime, obviously he's not going to be testifying for the government. So who do they have, and what evidence do they have that shows that relationship? And then how are they getting that evidence admitted into court? What witness is going to be the person they use to lay the foundation to get all of that admitted? So it's going to be very, very curious how that develops. Big question, how's Trump doing? Obviously 4 indictments piling up, plus a superseding indictment. Not really ideal. Alina tells us how he's doing.
Alina, I know you're down there with him right now, and you probably have a lot to discuss. But, look, I consider myself a pretty tough guy. This would have crushed me mentally and physically, years ago. How is he doing personally?
This has been his life, Carl, honestly, for the better of a decade. This has been his family's lives, his kids, his wife, all of them, and they're resilient and strong. And I really can't tell the American public more that this is another day for him. He is a fighter. He is fighting for everybody. And the more they try and hurt him, frankly, the more he believes in this country getting back and trying to get in to get it back. I really think that's his motivation. And this has been a motivational factor, frankly, for everybody on the team to see this corruption and try and get back and fight it and clean it up, because this isn't America and he loves this country.
And it seems like every time he does get indicted, people recognize how illegitimate the DOJ is. And so the more indictments there are, it almost as though it delegitimizes the prior indictments. It's like, oh, a third indictment now? Oh, great. Oh, a fourth indictment now? Oh, why don't you make it 5? We should indict him 5. Oh, 6 indictments. And we'll just have so many indictments that people they'll stop having meaning. It's just like other things that they scream at us for. And they just have no meaning anymore because they abuse them to death. And we can see the DOJ is as illegitimate as they've ever been, but they're going to be bringing a new indictment any day now. Trump warns. And so we'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing wherever you're watching this one. The Trump prosecution will move forward. We'll be here to cover. Now, another prosecution that is being brought by House Republicans is to expose the Biden crime family. And we know that there were some interesting activities afoot. Days before Biden crime family friend Devon Archer was scheduled to testify in front of Congress, some interesting letters dropped from the Biden DOJ. Devon Archer, we know, is going to be in front of Congress, has already testified. But the days before, he got this letter in his case, and it raised some eyebrows, saying that it's time to set a self-surrender date. Devon Archer's already been convicted, will be serving some time. The DOJ just wants to know when. And it's very convenient that the letter dropped in the case right around the time he's going to be testifying in front of Congress. Now, Congress was upset about this, and they started pounding the table, saying we're going to demand hearings and issue subpoenas and so on. And then suddenly the DOJ reversed course. But we'll go through the letters and you can be the judge on this. Is this just a coincidence? Is this just random timing? The DOJ just said, oh yeah, I forgot to file our paperwork. And so make sure you get the self-surrender letter out on the Devon Archer case, coincidentally, when he's testifying the following Monday. Or is this not a coincidence at all? And this is something that is a lot more in alignment with the government putting pressure on people using their levers of power. In this case, it's the DOJ, but in the case of Matt Taibbi, it was the IRS. And we remember that when he was called to testify in front of the Senate, IRS agents showed up at his house the day before. An IRS employee visited the home of journalist Matt Taibbi to discuss Taibbi's tax returns the same day he testified before the House Judiciary Select Subcommittee. Isn't that interesting? What a coincidence, man. And we know that the DOJ is just filled with good faith people. And this was all just a mistake, all just a big coincidence, right? All right. That's what they tell us. Now, here's what the letter actually says. They dropped this one on the 29th, coming out of the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Very short letter. It says, hey, Judge, Ronnie Adams out in the SDNY. Says, hey, Judge, the government is writing you in the case of the United States versus Devon Archer. We're just apprising the court, just apprising them of the status of the defendant called Devon Archer, of his appeal of his judgment of his conviction. He's appealing his case, doesn't want to go into custody, out on release while the appeal is working its way through. And we're requesting that the court set a self-surrender date to report to the Bureau of Prisons to commence his term of imprisonment. Just a reminder, on July 29th, when Archer's testifying on the 31st. Just, making sure we get that scheduled is absolutely matter of course and happens in cases where you have to serve time. You schedule a self-surrender date, very routine. But 2 days before you testify, just a reminder to Devon Archer that Hunty's daddy is still the president, and Hunty's daddy still runs the DOJ and the executive branch, and you're going to be serving a federal sentence On April 11th, they say, the court granted the motion for bail, letting him out of custody pending the appeals. On June 21st, he filed a petition for a rehearing. Second Circuit issued a mandate affirming his conviction on July 25th. So they're just notifying him. It's just all time. In light of the foregoing, the government respectfully requests that Devon Archer be ordered to surrender at a date and time determined by the court, so not immediately, but in a future date, to a facility designated by the Bureau of Prisons to start his term. The government has conferred with the defense counsel about this request and asked to propose a date. They responded this. They said, Mr. Archer believes it's premature to set a report date in light of his continuing appeal and newly discovered sentencing errors that the government has now conceded. Archer is going to put in a response to the request by Wednesday. They say the government disagrees with counsel's position and respectfully request that you set dates. Permission to respond to any arguments made by the defendant. Signed by Mr. Taibbi at the U.S. Attorney's Office, along with Samuel Rothschild as well. So they sent this letter over, and it's just 2 days before Devon Archer is going to testify. Just reminding him, just a little, hey, before you walk into that testimony there with those Congress people, just want to give you a little bit of a reminder on what's going on here. So when that letter dropped on the 30th, the day before Devon Archer was going to testify, Congress flips out. Here is what James Comer said.
I want to ask you about your investigation, but first, let me get to this breaking news. I have in my hand a letter from the Department of Justice that was sent to the Southern District of New York on Saturday. By the way, Devon Archer is testifying on Monday. Do you usually see the DOJ send letters like this out on a Saturday?
Never. This is the first time I've ever heard of the Department of Justice doing anything on a Saturday.
Yeah, interesting.
So what is this letter? Can you walk us through it? The government is apprising the court of the status of Devon Archer's appeal.
U.S. Attorney wakes up. Oh, I forgot that letter. Sends it off on a Saturday.
Of his judgment of conviction, and they request that the court set a surrender date for the defendant to report to a facility. Please walk us through what this letter says.
Yeah, the letter from the Department of Justice is trying to nudge the judge to go ahead and sentence Devon Archer for something unrelated to what we're going to be talking to him about tomorrow. It's odd that it was issued on a Saturday, and it's odd that it's right before he's scheduled to come in to have an opportunity to speak in front of the House Oversight Committee and tell the American people the truth about what really went on with Burisma. So, I don't know if this is a coincidence, Maria, or if this is another example of the weaponization of the Department of Justice, but I can tell you this. The lengths to which the Biden legal team has gone to try to intimidate our witnesses, to coordinate with the Department of Justice, and to certainly coordinate with the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee to encourage people not to cooperate with our investigation, to encourage banks not to turn over bank records, to encourage Treasury not to let us have access to those suspicious activity reports. It's very troubling, and I believe that this is another violation of the law. This is obstruction of justice, but nevertheless, we're going to continue to.
So who knows if it was a coincidence or not? Doesn't feel like it, and I don't like to give the DOJ the benefit of the doubt when we've seen a long pattern and a consistent history of all sorts of below-the-belt type of behavior, if not outright illegal, unconscionable behavior, like concocting fake scam plea deals that nobody else in this country gets. So Devon Archer's lawyer did respond to this, and this came over from Catherine Herridge on the X. Says Devon Archer says, hey, we're aware of speculation about the DOJ's weekend request to have Mr. Archer report to prison as an attempt to intimidate him in advance of his meeting. He said, to be clear, Mr. Archer does not agree with that speculation. In any case, Mr. Archer will do what he has planned to do all along. Show up on Monday and answer questions that are put to him. Obviously, he did show up, and we'll get to his testimony in a bit. But we see that other Congress people were dogpiling in on this. Says this one was from Harriet Hageman, says Matt Gaetz says 2 members of the House Judiciary Committee are now calling for lawmakers to return to Washington for immediate emergency hearings on the DOJ's interference with congressional oversight. Says Mike Johnson is an elected member of House leadership. This is all because of Hunter's problems and Joe's problems merge with the testimony of Devon Archer. Time for action right now. And so they were ready to go, man. We got Harriet Hageman's too. He said, oh yeah, there's 3 of you? Make it 4. And I think she put her like Avengers ring up on the screen too. And they all just like they started putting their Avengers rings together. And then she said, make that 4. Well, I plan to be in Wyoming visiting my constituents. This is imperative and warrants immediate action. I will also join. We're like, yeah, baby. Avenged from Wyoming. And then it wasn't done yet. We had Avenger number 5 jump in the team. Representative Dan Bishop says, I think you need 5, which is right. Only then do the streams combine. Count me in. Says subpoena should fly tomorrow. Well, fortunately, things didn't get that far. And we had a buckle. We had a clarification letter from the DOJ just to make sure that all of this gets situated. And they gave us a response that follows. They sent this one in July 30th, the following day. Hey, Judge, sorry about all this commotion out here. The government writes as a follow-up on our July 29th letter apprising the court of the Second Circuit's mandate affirming the conviction in this case. The government understands that the defendant is scheduled to provide testimony tomorrow. This letter came out on July 30th, which is a Sunday. On Monday, July 31st, to be clear, the government does not request and has never requested that the defendant surrender before his congressional testimony. And of course, we saw that in the letter. But it's also a convenient reminder right before the testimony that he's going into custody pretty soon, into Biden's Bureau of Prisons, as the court knows. And we know that there are dangerous things that happen in those Bureau of Prisons. Certainly, we've covered other cases here where security guards just fall asleep and security cameras get turned off and people just get off suicide watch. Doesn't work out well for them. As the court knows, to surrender and commence his sentence of imprisonment, he must first be designated to a facility. That can take weeks or a month. But nonetheless, for the avoidance of all doubt, the government requests that any surrender date, should the court order one, be scheduled to occur after the congressional testimony is completed. And we thank you for your consideration in this request, signed by Mr. Tikai down there from the U.S. Department of Justice. So, very curious little developments. A lot of letters flying around on the weekend from a scrambling DOJ, but didn't work. Devon Archer showed up and testified. That testimony might be the first opening in the efforts to expose the Biden crime family. And we get there now. And here's what we know about it. Devon Archer testifies and Democrats squirm. They do not like what they heard in there. And you can see it on the face of Representative Dan Goldman. He's usually a little bit twitchy and fidgety, usually a little bit sweaty, but a little extra fidgety, a little extra sweaty today, walking out of that hearing that involved Devon Archer. We know him as a very, very close family friend to Hunter Biden. A lot of text messages, a lot of golfing outings, a lot of transactions floating around. But he testified in front of Congress behind closed doors. We're going to go to Chad Pergram over on Fox News to give us a Twitter thread on it and some detail. But a lot of the reporting is going to come from Dan Goldman. This is a Democrat who walked out of the congressional hearing and tries to set the narrative straight from his side. And we can see whether he did a good job of that or not. But before we listen to him, short montage of Joe Biden. And Joe Biden saying that he never talked to his son about any of this. And we want to compare and contrast Joe Biden's statements with Mr. Goldman's, because he's going to tell us, I don't even know what Joe Biden said. So let's just remind him, shall we?
Never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their business.
Never.
Period.
Period.
I did anything wrong. And I didn't realize he was on the board till after he'd been on the board. And at the same time, he has come forward and said it was a mistake on his part to be on the board. I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. The fact is, I was unaware of his investments until it occurred, and I've never discussed my son's business with him because I didn't want any conflict. I don't discuss business with my son. I didn't know that was the case. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters, and I've never discussed them.
Never discussed them. Wow. That's pretty interesting because apparently they had phone calls every single day, 20 of them over the course of a long period of time, absolutely directly involved the business deals. This is Representative Dan Goldman, a Democrat, trying to cover over what he's recognizing is catastrophic testimony for the Biden crime family.
Ways where we left off, there's no connection in any bank records, in any recollection, in any testimony between President Biden and his son Hunter's business dealings. That, like many people, Hunter spoke with his father every day. And would often put his father, every day. Occasionally would put his father on to say hello to whomever he happened to be caught at dinner with. And Mr. Archer clarified that was sometimes people that they were having, they were trying to do business with, and it was sometimes friends or other social engagements.
Oh, so did we hear that correctly? Did he just tell us exactly what people were implying? Hunter goes to dinners, calls his dad every day. Hey, Dad, what's going on? How are you? How's Mom? Great. How's the dog? Biting anybody? All right. And that's it. But then a couple times there's an actual business partner there. And Hunter gets him on the phone on speakerphone.
Happy to take a couple questions.
Answer.
Mr. Goldman, yes. So there.
And let's listen to that one more time, just so we're very clear on this. Okay, that was his whole statement. And they sent him out here with a purpose. They said, Dan Goldman is great. He is going to be our guy. We're going to give him the talking points. He's going to go out in front of the media. He's going to say this thing, no connection, no connection. There's yeah, Hunter is a derelict. He's a piece of work, but it doesn't implicate Joe. Joe's this innocent, aloof dad who cares about his son. They have phone calls, talk about the weather, that type of crap. But this is the no connection narrative. And I'm pretty sure he just admits that Joe lied to all of us. Joe told us that he doesn't talk about his businesses, and he's literally talking to Hunter with his business people at the same table.
Like many people, Hunter spoke with his father every day and would often occasionally would put his father on to say hello to whomever he happened to be caught at dinner with. And Mr. Archer clarified that was sometimes people that they were having, they were trying to do business with, and it was sometimes friends or other social engagements.
All right. So did you see also how he said caught in there? Did you hear that word he used? Sometimes Hunter would be caught at dinner with whomever he happened to be with. All right. He knows he's busted just like the rest of us know. So he takes a couple questions after that absolute weak statement. He can't even concoct a paragraph. He's just got a couple sentences and blows it. Here are the questions by the media.
Happy to take a couple questions.
Mr. Goldman, yes. So there are Republican allegations that the Bidens received money through shell companies. Did Archer talk about those? Did he verify those allegations?
There is no evidence
that
anyone other than Hunter Biden received any money in connection with the business transactions with Devon Archer.
No evidence that anybody other than Hunter Biden received money. And we were speculating that this was ultimately going to be the defense because they just keep moving the goalposts. It went from they never talk about it to they never do business to now they never got money. And we were joking about this, I don't know, last week or 2 weeks ago, when the joke was, what do they want? Do they want a direct deposit? Are they going to show us Joe Biden's bank account and say there's no direct deposits from Hunter Biden in here, okay? CEFC, the Chinese, they didn't give Joe Biden anything. And you go, wait a minute. So it goes from never talked about it to never did business to now you're saying he never received money. Like, watch these goalposts. Just keep changing every single time. And he doesn't answer the question at all. He just says, Joe never got the money. But how do you define what that means? I would also agree. I don't expect to see any direct deposit of any Venmo or Zelles to Joe Biden. All right. I just don't expect to ever see that because you'd have to be a moron to do that. And these people are not, ultimately morons because they've been getting away with this on the back of America for I don't know how long, 30 years.
Republican allegations that the Bidens received money through shell companies. Did Archer talk about those?
Very
Did he verify
careful
those
statement.
allegations?
There is no evidence that anyone other than Hunter Biden received any money
There it is.
in connection with the business transactions with Devon Archer.
Wow. Just keeps moving.
So to confirm, you're saying that the speakerphone conversations, they don't seem concerning to you because there was no specifics about business, and it just seemed like they
It
were
was
talking
clear
about...
that it was part of the daily conversations that Hunter Biden had with his father, and it was and sounded like most of the time now President Biden didn't even know who the people he was at dinner. He was just asked to say hello, and he would talk about the way he described it several times. They asked over and over and over. He described what the weather was, how what's going on your end. The witness was very, very consistent that none of those conversations ever had to do with any business dealings or transactions. They were purely what he called casual conversations.
Doesn't that contradict the president?
Yeah, what's the weather? Yeah, what's the weather like over there in Ukraine? Oh, hey, Dad, it's Hunter. Oh, hey, Hunter. How are you? You in rehab still? No, I'm out. Oh, where are you out? Well, I'm in Ukraine now. Wow, you're in Ukraine. That's great. Who are you with? Well, I'm sitting around here with Vodim and Bazarsky and all of the Ukrainian names are on there. You go, what are you guys doing over there? I don't know. Certainly not talking about business with you, though, Dad. Just checking in. Yeah, we definitely don't want to talk about business. Hunter says, well, but you know what we have going on over here, though? The weather. The weather's yeah. Oh, you got some weather going on. Yeah, we got some weather clouds over here in Ukraine. Now, we could really use your help in dealing with the weather, Dad. And that's interesting, son. What do you need from me? We definitely need some umbrellas over here in Ukraine. And Joe says, well, umbrellas are pretty expensive where I come from. Yeah, how many umbrellas do you think we need and how many can you deliver? And Joe says, I don't know. How about 5 million? And Hunter says, that's what I was thinking. 5 million umbrellas. Yeah. Well, I'll get back to lunch. My steak just got here, Dad. Thanks for being here. And it's all these phone calls. And somehow, magically, umbrellas get delivered and Ukraine's weather clears up for Burisma. They no longer have a prosecutor who's breathing down their neck because Joe Biden has leveraged $1 billion in foreign American aid to exculpate him from oversight of Burisma and their corruption. It's lunacy. And he's having to sell it. And he looks very uncomfortable as he's going through this. I mean, he's just kind of squirming around trying to explain this. The weather, is that, you really think that Hunter's calling to talk to his dad?
Very consistent that none of those conversations ever had to do with any business dealings or transactions. They were purely what he called casual conversations.
Doesn't that contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to any of Hunter Biden's business associates?
He's a liar.
Clearly he talked, whether it's about the weather or whatever, but he said specifically that he's never talked to them. Doesn't this contradict them?
I don't know what his comment is, and if we're gonna, well, I don't think
we just played it.
That's what he said. He never said that he has never spoken to anyone. He said that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. If he says hello to someone that he sees his son with, Is he supposed to say, "Hi, son"? Oh, no, I'm not going to say hello to the other people at the table or the other people on the phone. It's kind of a preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to people that the son is at dinner with, and that is literally all the evidence is.
Yikes. So he's grasping right now. Joe Biden is just a real nice guy. He's just interested in his son's affairs. And his son, you know, all of those text messages about, like that one text message where he said, "My dad is sitting right here, and if you don't pay me, you don't know the reign of terror that I will bring down upon you." There's also those like little bits of evidence, and that's why we're saying that that might be a problematic thing, because it supports the other evidence.
Is this like a party trick that Hunter Biden used to impress the people he was with, whether they were friends or business associates?
No, the witness, Mr. Archer, was very clear that Hunter spoke to his father every day. And he indicated that he approximated about 20 times over the course of his 10-year business relationship that he had with Mr. Biden, with Hunter Biden, which would be about twice a year, that Hunter would put his father on speakerphone with
his business associates,
with whomever was at dinner, and there was no indication that he had any idea who was at dinner with them. It was just to say, "Hello, I'm at dinner here," and there was nothing related to his business dealings.
Why was he doing that? Was it just to say, "Look, I can get my dad on the phone, check it out"?
I don't know. He picked up the phone at dinner when his dad called him, and he was at dinner.
Who were some of those? So there's no conflicts of interest? Was Volchowski one of those? There's no conflicts of interest with President Biden when he was vice president and now, as it pertains to Archer's testimony about Hunter?
There is not a shred of evidence of a single conflict of interest of President Biden ever doing anything in connection or in relation to Hunter Biden's business ventures other than advocating for the removal of a prosecutor general who was advantageous to Burisma. The only evidence we have right now of any official action by President Biden in connection to Hunter Biden's business interests is bad for Hunter Biden's business interests.
Wait a minute. So he just admits that there is a connection. Is this guy an idiot? What is he talking about?
How is that not a conflict of interest? Because it had nothing to do with, what?
Why was it not?
It had nothing. It was not done in furtherance of that. It was done because President Biden has a tremendous amount of integrity and respect. And if you ask any of the State Department witnesses who have dealt with President Biden, then President Biden, in Ukraine and elsewhere, they will all say, every single one of the first impeachment witnesses will all say that Vice President Biden was a man of the highest integrity who only advocated on behalf of the United States. Let's not let the Republican projection, because Donald Trump has used his perch and his power purely for his own personal gain, make everybody think that that's normal. That's not normal. And unless there's any evidence, and we have seen none, and we have heard a lot of accusations and we have seen no evidence somehow connecting President Biden to anything that his private citizen son is doing, then we need to move on, and this investigation is a complete waste of time.
Thank you, guys. Pull him out of there. Yeah, he was having a tough time on that. Couple talking points, repeats it over and over and over again, refuses to look at the actual evidence, and is just saying that those phone calls were just about the weather and about how the steak was, how the food is, and that all of the other evidence about Hunter saying that my daddy's sitting right next to me doesn't corroborate Devon Archer's testimony. So he's out there just trying to sell the talking points, give the media a bunch of clips, and diminish the curiosity with their version of the events, not the Republicans' version of the events. Fox News got some reporting on this too. They say that Devon Archer said that Hunter was brought on to these different entities to elevate the brand with the Biden name.
This now, Jillian, this is intriguing to our viewers at home. Archer tells the House investigators that Hunter Biden put then VP Biden on a speakerphone more than 20 times to sell, quote, the brand, in parentheses, in business conversations. And Chad goes on to say that Archer testified that there was a value of adding Hunter Biden to Burisma's board, was the brand. Burisma is the energy company out of Ukraine. The argument was that then Vice President Joe Biden brought the most value to the brand. There's that phrase yet again. Archer also stated that Burisma would have gone under if not for the brand. Wow. In December of 2015, the owner of Burisma, gentleman, the CEO who ran the company, placed constant pressure on Hunter Biden to get help from Washington, D.C. regarding the Ukrainian prosecutor, Viktor Shokin.
Wow, that's weird. Help from Washington, D.C. Where would that come from?
To tie this all together now, this energy company, Jillian, wanted to do business in America. There was even a suggestion through the story that they wanted to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange, but they could only do it if they got away from the investigation that was pending back in Ukraine. And this is the theory that Republicans have now, is that they had to draw Hunter Biden into it. They had to bring then Vice President Joe Biden into it to help get the prosecutor taken out of his job. That would clear the runway, so to speak, in order for Burisma to have greater success in the business community, not just in Ukraine, but specifically here in the United States.
All right, so that is more evidence that Joe Biden is directly connected to this. How does Hunter get anything done but for his access to Washington, but for his access to the vice president, to Joe Biden, who's been in the government forever? Now, over on X, Chad Pergram, who is a correspondent for Fox News, he does senior reporting for Congress. He said the following: from a source familiar with the transcribed interview of business partner Devon Archer, Archer testified that there was value of adding Hunter Biden to Burisma's board was the brand. The argument was that then Vice President Joe Biden brought the most value to the brand. Archer also stated that Burisma would have gone under. Now, here's where the connections get deeper. In December 2015, Mykola Zlochevsky, the owner of Burisma, and Vadim Poharsky, another executive of Burisma, so the owner and an executive, they placed pressure on Hunter to go get Viktor Shokin removed. Shokin was investigating Burisma for corruption. Hunter, along with Zlochevsky and Poharsky, quote, called D.C. to discuss the matter. Biden, Hunter, Zlochevsky, and Poharsky stepped away to make the call. So they're saying that Devon Archer wasn't there for that call. But they were there. They said, let's call D.C., and they get on the phone. So who did they call? Archer testified that Hunter Biden put then Vice President Joe Biden on the speakerphone during business meetings. During business meetings, says Chad Pergram. Over 20 times. That's not what Goldman told us. Goldman told us they were just asking about the weather. Hey, Hunter, it's Dad. Is it raining there? Over 20 times. Archer testified that Joe Biden was put on the phone to quote, sell the brand. Joe Biden was put on the phone to sell the brand, which is access. The brand is access to political power. They're not Gucci. These phone calls include a dinner in Paris and with a French energy company and with China, with Jonathan Lee of BHR. In the spring of 2014, Vice President Joe Biden attended a business dinner with his son, Hunter, and his associates at Cafe Milano in D.C. Alina Baturina, a Russian oligarch who is the widow of a former mayor of Moscow, attended the dinner. And she has not been sanctioned yet. The Biden administration's public sanctions list for Russian oligarchs do not include Baturina. Isn't that interesting? Pretty convenient. Man, why didn't Dan Goldman tell us about all of that stuff? That's pretty important. Sounds like it's more than just the weather. Joe Biden actually went to a business dinner This is according to Chad Pergram. Alina Habba, who's now a Russian oligarch, has not been sanctioned in this war. Everybody else has. Why hasn't she? Curious indeed. Now, James Comer put out a statement after this testimony hit. Here's what he said over on X. He says, Devon Archer's testimony confirms Joe Biden lied when he said he had no knowledge about his son's business dealings and was not involved. He put this out on Twitter. He says, Devon Archer's statement today confirms Joe Biden lied to the American people when he said he had no knowledge about Hunter's business dealings. Biden was the brand that his son sold around the world to enrich the Biden family. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, he joined Hunter Biden's dinners with his foreign business associates in person or by speakerphone over 20 times. When Burisma's owners was facing pressure from the Ukrainian prosecutor investigating the company for corruption, Archer testified that Burisma executives asked Hunter to call D.C. Why did Joe Biden lie to the American people about his family's business dealings and his involvement? Comer says it begs the question, what else is he hiding from America? The House committee is going to continue to follow the money trail to determine whether foreign actors targeted Biden, whether Biden's corrupt, and whether our national security has been threatened. So that's Devon Archer's testimony. Democrats a little bit nervous about that, trying to craft a narrative for us. We're going to wait for the transcripts to drop on this, and when they do, you better believe we're going to be covering them in full. So my friends, make sure you're subscribed to this channel wherever it is you're watching it, and we'll look forward to seeing you when those drop. But we're not done yet here. We've got one final fun development. This one coming over from the Judiciary Committee. Congress now demanding answers on the Hunter Biden plea deal scam, the bizarre deal that the Biden DOJ concocted to try to curry favor for his son. It went in front of the judge in front of Delaware. We saw she asked a couple simple questions. The whole scam deal went off the rails because it was insane. Hunter was essentially getting a prosecution immunity deal from the government for all sorts of other crimes where we know there's a lot of evidence that is mounting up. Congress is asking questions, and the judge wanted to know what happened. And when the judge asked questions, the DOJ didn't have good answers. Neither did the defense team, but Jordan wants to know more. How did this deal get crafted in the first place? Jim Jordan is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and he sent this letter over to Merrick Garland, the honorable, so-called Attorney General. He says, hey, Mayor, the Committee on the Judiciary, along with Ways and Means, Oversight, and Accountability, that's 3 committees now, are continuing their oversight of the executive branch, that's Biden's, and their commitment to the impartial justice. We're also investigating the veracity of statements made in response to our inquiries related to the DOJ investigation of Hunty. Given recent unusual events relating to the plea deal and to the pretrial diversion agreements, we write to better understand the DOJ's decision to sign off on this apparently atypical agreement. And this is so atypical, even the DOJ admitted that. The judge said, do you do this thing regularly? Do you have any precedent for this? No. Have you ever done this before? No. According to the court documents and recent news reports, Judge Mary Ellen Norica, shout out to Judge Norica, of the District of Delaware, declined to accept the plea deal on Wednesday. The plea agreement relates to the tax charges that have been brought against Hunter, and the pretrial relates to the firearms charge. Judge Norica described the department's deal as, quote, not standard and, quote, different from what I normally see. She also raised substantial concerns with paragraph 14 of the diversion agreement. This means that if Hunter just doesn't get in trouble again and abides by the law, they will literally dismiss the firearm charge against him. So no felony conviction at all. Normally, if the department determines that a defendant has breached the pretrial diversion agreement, so Hunter's got to remain law-abiding and not, get in trouble, follow the terms of the diversion. But if he breaches, what happens? They say normally, if the department determines that a breach has occurred, the Department of Justice can unilaterally decide to bring charges against the person. you are given a get out of jail free card. It's kind of, hey, we're going to give you this opportunity to work away your crime. But if you commit a new crime, you're in big trouble. Not only are we going to charge you for the original crime, this is how it normally works, we'll also charge you for the new crime. But they didn't do that here. It does not require the district court's permission to bring the charges. It's the DOJ. They just do it. But as described by Judge Norica, paragraph 14 of this bizarre pretrial diversion agreement says that if the United States believes that a knowing breach of this agreement occurred, it may go back to the court, which is Judge Norica, and she can dictate that. It then goes on to say, this is the judge speaking, it goes on to say that if I do find a breach, then the government can either give the defendant time to remedy the breach, or they can prosecute him for the crime if it falls within the language of the agreement. And the judge is going, what? Thus, paragraph 14 of the diversion agreement means that unless Judge Norica makes a finding that it has been breached, no criminal charges can be pursued against Hunter. So it's like a speed bump in the prosecution. They want to take the decision away from the DOJ and give it to the courts because the DOJ doesn't want to be able to bring the charges. Okay, they are like building walls off on their capabilities. Normally, they would just say, yeah, this is a new crime. I'm a prosecutor. I believe there's probable cause. I swear a complaint. There you go. Or it's an indictment. But they want to sort of cobble this and bring it back over to a judge in Delaware. At the hearing, Judge Norica asked the U.S. attorney. She said, excuse me, Leo Weiss, do you have any authority that any court has ever accepted that deal or said that they would do that? Has this ever happened ever in America in the history of the world? Prosecutor responded, no. Moreover, Judge Norica expressed concerns about the constitutionality of the provision. She says, well, now you make me a gatekeeper to criminal charges. You're kind of making me like a grand jury. Puts me in the middle of a decision as to whether to bring a charge or not. This is like basic constitutional separation of powers 101. She noted, she said, the government does not have discretion to continue to pursue charges or any other charge unless you include the court in this deal. And she says, that's getting outside of my lane in terms of what I'm allowed to do. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a grand jury. I don't confirm or swear a complaint. That's you. Judge Norica reiterated. She said, I asked if there's any precedent for this. I was told no. I was asked if there was any authority for this. I was told no. Congress continues. They say also, paragraph 15 of the diversion deal says, this is the immunity provision. They say your pretrial diversion deal gives Hunter the following. It says the United States government, Daddy Biden's DOJ, agrees not to criminally prosecute Biden outside the terms of this agreement for any federal crimes encompassed in their big statement of facts, which was big and broad. Any crimes that's been attached. And they just said, well, you know, Hunter was a crackhead for a long period of time. Anything involved with taxes or anything in that period is described in the statement of facts. Therefore, can't prosecute him. In a diversion deal that's going to ultimately dismiss the felony charge. Says this grants immunity in the pretrial diversion agreement. Therefore, it not only covers the gun-related conduct, it also covers entirely unrelated conduct covered by the plea agreement. It's nuts. It's just like, you know, it's like if you just walked into a candy store and they're like, this is all yours, take whatever you want. Judge doesn't care. That's what they're doing. During the hearing, Judge Norica questioned the department about this apparently unusual provision, asking whether the U.S. attorney, quote, had any precedent for agreeing not to prosecute crimes that have nothing to do with the case or the charges being diverted. Have you ever done this before? Like where somebody's being charged with shoplifting and you say they're also immune for murder? They stole a candy bar and you're saying, well, they also can, you know, they murdered a few people too, but they're exonerated for the murders because they stole the candy bar. Do you have any precedent for agreeing not to prosecute crimes that have nothing to do with this? He said, I'm not aware of any, Your Honor. No, I don't. The judge followed it up. Have you ever seen a diversion agreement where the agreement not to prosecute is so broad that it encompasses crimes in a different case? U.S. Attorney says no. Don't have a good answer on that one either. Now, taken individually, each of the provisions raises serious concerns about how the DOJ handled this. But when considered together, the provisions appear to be even more troubling. Judge Norica, typo there, Judge Norica explained the problem. What's funny to me is that you put me right smack in the middle of the diversion agreement that I should have no role in. You plot me right in there. And then on the thing that I would normally have the ability to sign off on or look at in the context of the plea, you just take it out and you say, Your Honor, don't pay any attention to that provision not to prosecute because we put it in an agreement that's beyond your ability. And yeah, this was also insulting. They drafted this plea under the rules that said that the judge doesn't have any authority to really reject the plea. But they wanted the judge simultaneously to be the arbiter of problems that happen under the plea. She said, what are you asking me for here? In short, the department shifted a broad immunity provision, which benefits Hunter, from the plea to the pretrial diversion agreement to stop the judge from being able to scrutinize and reject it. Because the immunity deal is in the diversion agreement, and the diversion agreement is the agreement between Hunter and the government. The plea is the agreement between the government, the Hunter, and the judge. But the diversion, because they're ultimately going to dismiss the charges, they don't even need to file the charges. They can just say we're like, basically stop the prosecution. It's putting the prosecution on hold or on a delay while the diversion can be completed. If the diversion is not completed, they will reinstitute the prosecution. If it is completed, they turn around and file a motion to dismiss the case. And then the department has also benefited Mr. Biden by giving up its unilateral ability to bring charges. So now they say if Hunter commits a new crime, the DOJ doesn't have the authority to bring the charges on their own. They've got to go back through the courts. And I think part of the reason they did this, or they wanted this in here, is to say that if, let's say, Trump wins, his DOJ takes over, his people say, well, we think your plea deal was a problem or you breached because of this, and we want to bring in new charges based on the fact that you violated your diversion deal. This would give them a failsafe. It would take it away from an adverse DOJ and give it to the court. Instead, it placed upon itself the burden of getting the district court's permission to bring the charges, even though they normally have no role in policing these agreements. So the district court apparently is removed from the equation when it helps Mr. Biden and inserted when it hurts Mr. Biden. All right. Do we have another typo here? All right. What's going on in Congress right now? What's going on in Congress? We've got two typos here. Judge Noriega, no. And apparently removed from the equation when it helps Mr. Biden and inserted into the equation when it helps Mr. Biden. No. Hurts. Hurts. One of those should be hurt. Right? When it hurts Mr. Biden and inserted when it helps Mr. Biden. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I could be reading that wrong. Chat's telling me I'm wrong on that. They're both trying to help. Anyways, we'll continue. Status of the ongoing investigation. Says the committees are also concerned that, contrary to its representations to the Judiciary Committee, the judge may be claiming that other investigations into Mr. Biden are ongoing to shield the department from oversight. In that regard, it was notable that Mr. Biden's counsel stated at the hearing that it was his understanding that the immunity provision in the pretrial diversion agreement would preclude the department. Right, so this was Hunter changing his understanding like in real time. He came out, the judge said, Hunter, would you take this deal if you didn't have immunity? He said, no, of course not. No, I wouldn't take it. Then they went behind closed doors. Nothing changed in the deal. And he came back out and he said, yes, I'll take this deal now. Why? Because it was an unwritten deal. It was unspoken. Yes, the immunity deal may not have been included to his satisfaction, but he got an unwritten promise from the DOJ. We're not bringing charges. While the department did not agree with that position, it's difficult to understand how the parties would not have a meeting of the minds regarding a clause like this that's so fundamental. It raises questions about the discussions that have been taking place between the DOJ and Mr. Biden's counsel. So here's what they want. Congress has a lot of questions. They say the department's unusual plea and pretrial diversion agreements with Mr. Biden raise serious concerns, especially when combined with recent whistleblower allegations from Gary Shapley, Joseph Ziegler, Gal Luft, and others, that the department has provided preferential treatment toward Mr. Biden in the course of its investigation. We have the following questions. Other than Mr. Biden's case, Merrick, how many times in the last 10 years has the DOJ for Delaware included a pretrial diversion agreement like paragraph 14? I'm guessing 0. What percentage of the total pretrial diversion agreements entered by the District of Delaware does that number represent? How many times and how many, what is that number as a percentage of all of your pretrial diversion agreements? Is it 5% of them? Is it 10% of them? Is it 1%? Is it 0.0001%? What is it? Other than Hunter's case, how many times in the last 10 years has any unit of the department included a provision like paragraph 14? Any unit of the department. So Delaware, but now any unit of the department. How about the same question with the pretrial diversion agreement and diversion for gun charges? So they're doing the old compare and contrast. How many times in the last year do you have an agreement not to prosecute crimes that are unrelated to the diverted crimes? How many times do you grant diversion for shoplifting but excuse people for murder? What percentage of that does it represent? Did the U.S. Attorney's Office for Delaware or Biden's attorneys suggest paragraph 14? Who put that in there? You or Hunter's people? And who asked for permission to bring charges through the court? You or Hunter? Same question. Who put the pretrial diversion immunity deal in there? And they say all of this is to advance our oversight. Remember, we need a legislative purpose to conduct these inquiries. We're considering legislative reforms. So we want the following: a list of similar pretrial diversion agreements entered into by the department for felony firearms possession charges, all documents and communications related to similar diversion deals in the last 10 years for felony firearms, a list of pretrial diversions similar with paragraph 14, similar with Hunter, same list with unrelated charges being diverted, a generalized description of the investigation, and an explanation from Merrick Garland why the department originally agreed to a plea agreement if there are other open investigations that are ongoing. Why? Please provide this information to the committee no later than 5 p.m. August 14th. As you know, the Judiciary Committee has jurisdiction over this, including criminal justice matters. And we look forward to your prompt attention to this matter. Sincerely, your friends, Jim Jordan, James Comer, and Jason Smith, Congressman on the Judiciary, Ways and Means, and Oversight and Accountability Committees. So we'll see what Merrick Garland says in response to that. But the corruption runs deep. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this thread that makes some very serious connections. Says Devon Archer, Hunter Biden's former best friend and business associate, asked why he was being arrested and investigated. Devon Archer is going to be going to prison. Hunter Biden is not. Devon Archer has a self-surrender date Hunter Biden has another court date where they're still going to try to work out a plea deal. Well, he'll be able to escape any criminality. But there were some very curious text messages that had been popped up. Marjorie posted this one. She said, this is an interesting conversation between Devon Archer and Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's on the right. He's asking for some money here. This is March 4th, 2019. He says, have you seen Cash App? Try using my code. We'll both get $5. He says, any luck, buddy? Did you get your Cash App going? Hunter saying to Devon. Devon says, I don't have a bank account. I can't do Cash App. Okay, buddy, how did we do last time? If it's an issue, no problem. If it's an issue, no problem. We're going skiing today and just wanted some cash for lunch. Hope the Eudora money will hit today. Sorry to ask. Hunter needs lunch money from Devon Archer. The guy was making millions a year. Needs lunch money. He says, the place is next to Wachusett. Have you been there before? It's a cool little mountain. Devon responds. He says, why did your dad's administration appointees arrest me and try to put me in jail? Just curious. Some of our partners are asking out here. Why would they try and ruin my family and destroy my kids? And no one from your family's side stepped in and at least try to help me. I don't get it. And I'm depressed. Bunch of these pejorative word, the way he uses it, getting in my head, asking me the same. So just curious what I should answer. And Hunter responds. He says, buddy, are you serious? He sends this March 6, 2019. Buddy, are you serious? Because there's no connection or control between the two. There's no connection or control between the two. The same Justice Department can investigate and prosecute this president and his family. It does for all administrations. Trump's in office right now. It's democracy. 3 co-equal branches of government. You are always more vulnerable to the overreach of one of those co-equal branches when you are in power. Every president's family is held to a higher standard, is a target. It's the price of being the most powerful group of people in the world. Hunter talking. It's why our democracy remains viable. It's unfair at times, but in the end, the system of justice usually works like we are redeemed and the truth prevails. The unfairness to us allows for the greater good. Devon says, I'm depressed. I love you anyways. Everyone other than you sucks, though, including them all. And your brother was with me. And your brother was with me. Let's go back to Marjorie's tweet. Yeah, that's Hunter. So here says your brother was with me. Yes, he was, and I always am. So he must be talking about maybe Bo. Like Bo is with him spiritually. Yes, he was, and I am always am, and turn the discussions around, Devon. Yes, he was, and I always am, and turn the discussion around, Devon. Every great family is prosecuted in the U.S. You are part of a great family, not a sideshow, not deserted by them, even in your darkest moments. That's the way Bidens are different. And you are a Biden. It's the price of power. And the people questioning you truly have none, whereas you do through perseverance and poise. Love you, bro, says Devon. Sorry. Long way from home from a couple weeks and the demons are talking to me. Curious exchange here. And you see that Hunter considers himself to be part of the most powerful family in the world. Sounds like he's talking to somebody who he is willing to expend. Do you really think that Hunter and Joe Biden consider Devon Archer to be a Biden? to be a family member of the Bidens? Or would they throw them to the wolves the first chance they get? You would imagine it's the latter. But you can see how they talk to people, how they exploit people, and how they lie to all of us. Fortunately, Congress is asking questions about it. Jim Jordan and others now demanding answers about the scam plea deal that was concocted for Hunter, for Joe, for this entire scam. And of course, my friends, we will continue to cover. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. There will be much more on this, and we'll be here to cover it. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. We've got Congress demanding some answers. Dan Goldman and the Democrats squirming around in their chairs, not too comfortable with this testimony. We've got the DOJ scrambling to stop the testimony of Devon Archer. And Trump is warning us any day now the indictment could come. And we're covering this in depth, but we're keeping our eye on this Tuesdays and Thursdays specifically to see if anything pops up. So if you're one of us also refreshing your screens and keeping your eyes on what's happening, Tuesdays and Thursdays this week is when we're going to be paying attention to it. But that, my friends, is it for us. I want to thank you for joining us. Of course, we're going to take your comments, super chats, and your thoughts on this. But thank you for joining us at robertgovea.com, which is where we have our daily newsletter. So if you're looking for more reports, more content, more stuff to watch, you can check out robertgovea.com, click the reports button, and read through anything at your leisure on the stuff that we are covering. But let's see what you have to say about this, my friends. I appreciate all of your amazing support. I see Donut Mind Me's clipping for us. Thank you, Donut, who brought in. We've got some members joining us on YouTube. Amazing. We've got Curtis Bartle brought in 5 new people. Thank you for doing that, Curtis. We've got Glenn C., Rob U., an owl joined us. Dark Snyder, Vicky Oldham is joining us, courtesy of our friends on YouTube. And I am navigating some screens around on the day. Thank you for that. Okay, Spuds is next. Spud says, if the big guy's influence was just an illusion, was the money received and spent counterfeit? Treasury agents are standing by. Well, the Treasury Department has a bunch of those SARs, those suspicious activity reports that I know Comer, Green, a lot of people in Congress got their eyes on, and that has prompted a lot of the questions in this case. So where's the money going? Where did it end up? Who knows? But I'm certain that it's not, in a transaction into Joe Biden's bank account with his name on it. They're going to tell us that that's what it's going to take to incriminate him. That's not true. He got the benefit of the money in many, many ways, and I'm sure he's got control over some of it somehow. We just don't know exactly how it all works. Or it's through his brother, his kids, many layers, as they've explained. Thank you, Spuds. Chrissy's in the house. Says, happy Monday, Rob. What are the chances that Trump ends up with a judge like Hunter's? And if he's charged with J6 charges, does that open the door to expose it for the hoax it was? Well, unlikely, very low. He's in New York. This is going to be a DC case. We've covered other DC cases. I don't think I've seen a single judge that I would say would be a favorable judge out of DC. They all think that January 6th was a horrific insurrection and the end of the world. So I don't think it's going to bode well for him there. If he's charged with J6, does it open the door to expose it for the hoax it was? Well, I don't think that, I don't think the judges are going to give him a lot of leeway. So the same limitations, for example, we covered the Proud Boys trial here at length. And if you remember here, Chris, you may not have been with us then, but the judge made it very difficult for evidence to get admitted. If the Proud Boys wanted to talk about the 50 undercover informants, nope, sorry, not relevant. It's cumulative. It's not, relevant to the data. It's the evidence is too far removed from the defendants, whatever. So all of it was just kept out. So Trump can make those arguments, but if a judge decides that that's not relevant to his role in January 6th, he may keep it out. In other words, it may just be about Trump's statements and the conspiracy and not about... The judge may say that the 50, 100 plus undercover feds are just not relevant to the specific charges. And the judge, I think, will hold the line on that because they've already set the precedent in the prior J6 cases. Thank you, Chrissy. Good to see you. Beyond Geos says, I nearly died. That's not good. To a ground wasp nest as I unknowingly picked it up. Deathly allergic. My wife and I watched from the window as the swarm came out. Wow. Well, I'm sure you got your heart rate up on the day on that one, Beyond Geostars. Glad you made it. Glad you're not dead. Hopefully. I think if you're typing the super chat, you're probably not dead. Good news. We've got this one from Jane Catherine Berry. What's up, Jane? Says Biden Inc. versus Devon Archer. Devon's two uncles are the notorious Bulger brothers of Boston. One's a gangster, one's a politician. No one F's with the Bulger. Did not know that. From Janine Catherine Berry from our friends over on Rumble. That is an interesting one. You wonder where these connections go. Gentifers here says, bring on more Trump indictments. Bring on 100. We all know they're fake, phony, and they make Trump more popular. It exposes the two-tier justice system. It's all blowing up Biden's corrupt government. They're kind of on this, I've been thinking about it as a legitimacy doom loop spiral. The more they prosecute people, the more it undermines their legitimacy. And they will then prosecute somebody to regain their legitimacy, but the new prosecution undermines their legitimacy. And so it's just this downward spiral. And every time they do it, now the indictments are kind of like a joke. Okay, indict him again. And for what now? All right. He's jaywalking? Okay, indict him. Yeah, indict him. Ian Mack says, they use it as a throwaway line. But would they swear under oath that Biden is capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time? I don't think so. Does he have gum when he tries to go up those stairs? I don't think so. They gave him the shorter steps of stairs now as well. I'm not sure if you guys saw that one. A Bad Poet says, bet Fani got some padding money. I don't even know what that would mean. Like to sit on? Or you mean just to prosecute him? She's getting some nice donos coming in to prosecute Trump. Thank you, A Bad Poet. Hey, we got Rocky Water. Thanks, John Allen's clipping for us. Says a swear jar. I know it's probably me, or was that you, Rocky? One of us. Anyways, it was Rocky. Thanks, Rocky. It was you. It was Rocky Water. He's paying for the swear jar. Thanks, Rocky. Honor system. I appreciate it. NY says, let's say Trump had a vision of her, quote, personal beliefs, had evidence of her personal beliefs. Would it make sense to hold back much of that and have the judge put what's required in his ruling, then when charges come, release the information and refile the motion? Yeah, I would imagine if Trump had something substantive that they would have researched it and included it now. Like preventing the charges, the earlier you prevent the charges, the better, obviously. So if they had a good argument now that met that standard, I would imagine they would have used it. But again, the judge in that said that this was just too early. It's not ripe enough. The case is not ready yet. And so if they do have that, I would imagine they could refile it and say, malicious prosecution or whatever they call it in Georgia. But good to see you, good doctor. NY over on Locals. We got John Bright. Welcome, John. John joined us on YouTube, and that's amazing. So, John, make sure you grab the Telegram link if you'd like to join us for the after party. Download the Telegram app. It's our chat that never ends. It's a lot of fun. And we also have our member-only morning streams in the morning. We love to say what's up to our members in the morning. And so, John, we'll see you tomorrow morning. This one came in from NY. Says, think for a moment. If the surveillance tapes were comprehensive and captured the time the documents were there, couldn't the tapes be exculpatory? Making the documents stayed in the boxes, meaning the documents stayed in the boxes the whole time. From the beginning, Trump asserted that the FBI came by and advised him to put locks on the door. Doesn't that advice to him undercut their whole case? Well, yeah, they did, right? There was the whole conversation about the SCIF. But I think what they were saying is that the SCIF was for like other stuff that they weren't requesting back, and that he didn't give them everything back. It's the scope. It's about what they were demanding back and what Trump ultimately retained. Dolphin fan is the man in the house. Brought in Luke, Riley Leifson, Big Boy Blue, Michael Watkins, Gimmon NC over as members on YouTube. And thank you, Dolphin fan, for bringing in 5 new members. Dolphin fan is the man. And we got Pickle Jars for Hillary says Devon Archer didn't Epstein himself. No, he didn't. He definitely did not Epstein himself. We're keeping our thoughts out there for Devon. Hopefully he's all right tonight. NY says, Rob, you forgot to mention who signed the letter re Devon Archer. It was Damian Williams. Well, yeah, Damian Williams is the lead SDNY guy. I think the other lawyers actually signed off on it. He was also a longtime clerk and disciple of Merrick Garland. Yeah, he was the guy, I think, out of SDNY. He was like, I'm the youngest SDNY ever. I'm, amazing. I'm very happy about that. But I think the guys who actually signed it were the line attorneys. So like these names. So that's his title name here. And then this is the actual drafter of the document. But it's a good point. I mean, SDNY is a very, very bad jurisdiction regardless. This one came in from Chrissy. Dan Goldman. I mean, yeah, he did it, but it's normal. It's just, the weather. Could you imagine if this was Donald Trump? Like Don Jr. had, Michael Flynn had a phone call, right? One phone call. Don Jr. had one meeting. These are like 20 phone calls over who knows how long with millions of dollars being transacted. And they don't even say it's a big deal. It's just normal business. Passport Bro in the house. He says they are morons. I think this was in response to me saying, look, these people aren't morons. You say, yeah, they are morons. Amazing. Passport Bro in the house. Nate's meme says, guess Dan forgot Joe and Hunter shared a bank account. Yeah, and Hunter was getting keys for Joe and the Chinese at the same location in Delaware. I think that's where they found some of those classified documents. Jennifer Newman says, good job. Thank you, Jennifer. Very nice of you. And that is Shibu. Thumbs up to you. Jennifer Newman in the house. We got Michael Allen Hughes says, shouldn't they subpoena all of his documents since he's involved in covering up the Biden criminal activity like they're doing with Trump attorneys? Certainly. Yeah, you're saying they could breach, they could breach attorney-client privilege because they're in furtherance of another crime. They're committing another crime, which is obstruction of justice. Good to see you, Michael. A Bad Poet says, the Goldman meme, the face of a liar for 1,000 years. That guy's going to have a tough time tap dancing around those difficult issues for the foreseeable future. Catherine Rex says, I can't even. My Republican brain is melting. It's a hard one. Dan Goldman is trying. He's really trying. I think he admitted everything, but then denied it all in the same sentence. No, they never talked about business ever. There's no evidence at all, except these 20 phone calls where Hunter was at business deals with his father on the phone on speakerphone. Oh. Catherine Rex says, did I just hear that? Oh, just the withholding of government funds. Ha, integrity. Oh, Trump, LOL. The Dems punching bag. The withholding of government funds from Catherine Rex. Good to see you, Catherine. We got Patrick Parker says, I call garbage on Biden's integrity. It's a good call. We have this one from A Bad Poet says, private citizen who rides Air Force One, lives in the White House, is Hunter. No doubt about it. And he also gets motorcades to his court proceedings. Voice of the People says, remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever find yourself stuck in questioning and feel like you have your back against the wall, easy. Just scream it's all Trump's fault and walk away. It works every time. Yeah, that's the Dan Goldman move. I have no idea what to say. I think I just admitted that Biden is a criminal, and a liar to all of you people. Oops. But it's not as bad as Trump. And we're out of time. His aide's like, she pulls the ejection cord. We're out of here. Thank you, Voice. Good to see you. And if you're not already subscribed over to Voice of the People, might be a good idea. NY says Goldman. Let's go to this one. Says she is an FBI informant that is so prized by the DOJ, the wife and the mayor of Moscow. We have another one. Thank you, NY. Eddie Oliver says, Rob, I would like for you to secure me a sweetheart deal like Hunter got for all past, present, and future crimes that I plan to commit, and there will be many. Well, Eddie, I know how to do it now. I know how to structure it in a diversion agreement that we don't tell the judge about. I can do it, man. I can do it. Only thing, I need your dad to be president. So as soon as that happens, give me a phone call. We'll get it done. No problem at all. It should be easy, actually. Should be easy. Linda's here, says, I thought it was paragraph 15 for immunity. I think there were two paragraphs. I think you're right. It was paragraph. There were two paragraphs, 14 and 15, and they referred to each other. I don't remember the details. You're probably right, Linda. I won't argue with you. This one from Lance says, sounds like he is saying his brother had his back, but others don't. Is that what that text was about? Says, and your brother was with me. Is that what that was? And your brother was with me. Everyone other than you sucks, including them all. And your brother was with me. So Bo was the attorney general. Yeah. I think Bo, Hunter's brother, Bo, was the attorney general of Delaware. So maybe his brother was with him as the attorney general of Delaware, protecting him a bit. But now his brother's dead. Yes, he was, and I always am. And turn the discussion around, Devon. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what he was referencing. That's from Lance. Ricky Ricardo says, you the man. Fight the good fight. Thank you, Ricky. Thanks for being here, my friend. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for dropping your first super chat dono on our stream. We very much appreciate you being here. Tricky's here over on Rumble. What's up, Tricky? Says, I see stuff being thrown around on X about SCOTUS stepping in on the unconstitutionality of the Trump prosecution, citing U.S. Code 18, Section 597. Any validity to this, or is this another hopium pipe dream? What is 18 Section 597? Is that like deprivation of rights? Let's see. I don't know. Is that deprivation of rights? 18 U.S. Code 597. Expenditures to influence voting. So I haven't seen any filings on this. Whoever makes or offers expenditures to vote or to withhold the vote, so charge somebody as a crime for voting expenditures. I would guess, Tricky, that's a hopium pipe dream, because this is a crime. Whoever makes or offers an expenditure to any person under 18 U.S. Code, so you would need a federal U.S. attorney to bring charges against somebody for this. So is the U.S. DOJ going to prosecute the U.S. DOJ for prosecuting Trump through a special counsel? It's like asking the it's like asking the DOJ to prosecute themselves. Yeah, I think that's unfortunately the answer. So it's a good question, though. Let's go over to the X, my friends, and say hello to our Xers before we jump over to our members only after party to conclude the day for our locals, friends, and our YouTube members who join us on Telegram. What's going on Twitter? Anybody watching over there? 14 people. Wow. Is Twitter going to break? We have sheep in the house. Oh, hey, we got sheep here. James Pepper says this one. Was this January 6th? James Pepper says this is a good example of January 6th, a Gary Larson Far Side. It's a bunch of sheep everywhere, and the sheep say, wait a minute. Isn't anyone here a real sheep? Isn't anyone a MAGA insurrectionist? No. Just he says, no matter what Archer says, nothing will be done. GOP lacks a backbone and has no spine. Fred Pedamonte says, Rob, all these DOJ people have to know that history will not be kind. And this will be turned back on them soon. I think you're right about that. Yeah, I mean, Republicans will ultimately win at some point. And Danny says, plausible deniability only works in the courtroom, not at the voting booth. And those were our great comments over from our friends on Twitter. We got 14 people on Twitter today, my friends. Woo! Out of control. So thanks for following us over at Rob Govea ESQ as Twitter continues to percolate. We're still trying to post our videos there, but we have upload problems. So Elon will get it figured out, I'm sure. He's busy sending rockets to space. We'll get video soon, I'm sure. But okay, that, my friends, is it for us on the day. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We had a couple final comments that came in. Amazing. Glad I didn't miss these. Thanks, John. Alexandra says, celebrating being an official first-time homeowner tonight. Congratulations. That's a big one. Congratulations. Says, also hoping the crazies in charge at the moment don't make me regret my decision. If we could stop letting people having mental breakdowns, senile long-term moments influence our government, that'd be super great. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so hopefully the whole country doesn't collapse because you've got a new house. And I'm sure it's going to be just great. And, you know, our incompetent leaders are only so incompetent. That's the good news about our government in many ways, is that, yes, they're incompetent, and yes, they are difficult in our lives, but, well, I was going to say there's only so much they can do, but there is only so much they can do. There are things that we can do to insulate ourselves from their madness. But it's good to see you. We got Viz Never Silent says, Devon Archer is John Kerry's stepson? Correct? I don't think so. I don't know anything about that. Says, oh, private jet access back in the day through his mom. I don't know anything about that. I can't confirm or deny that. That's an interesting theory, though. Words Mean Thing says, okay, so Hunty needed lunch money and $5 would have covered it. Yeah, they talk in strange abstracts. That's why they talk about the weather. I'm sure they're just talking about the weather. Rob, Fox reporter, said said Archer was not under oath. I saw that reported too. I think that was, who posted that on Fox? Trace Gallagher, I think, posted that on Fox. Said he was not under oath today from Fox. This one is over from K-Boss. Said, I heard on Bill, yeah, another one. So Bill O'Reilly reported that too. K-Boss says, I heard on Bill O'Reilly that Devon Archer wasn't under oath today at the request of his lawyers. Any idea if that's true? And will that impact anything? So I heard that Trace Gallagher reported that. I think the reason why they might have wanted that was just to make sure he doesn't get charged with crimes from Congress. Now, you know, what you think that does to his credibility is another question. I don't know that the impact from this either way is going to be what Congress decides to do with it. So I think that the Republicans are going to do something with it anyways. I don't know that him being under oath or not changes anything. Him being under oath would make it more likely that if he was busted for lying, they would charge him with lying to Congress. But that would also be in a different administration, you know, so I don't know how consequential it is. It might be consequential to you and whether you believe him or not, but it could have just been a technical thing. You know, they just don't want the possibility of him being charged by an angry DOJ. You could say by Biden's DOJ. It's to protect him against being charged by Biden for something, you know, who knows? Who knows? So very, very good question, but I haven't seen the official report on that, just the rumors that you guys have heard. Griff says, LOL, is Biden established to be the big guy for sure now? Well, I don't know that we have Devon Archer confirming that. I don't think that we've seen today his testimony specifically pin Joe Biden as the big guy. So we're all getting to the big guy by deduction. We're saying can't be this, can't be that, can't be that guy, can't be this guy, can't be that woman, can't be this daughter. It's got to be Joe. But I don't think that anybody is actually, which is, by the way, which is plenty in a criminal case, right? We do that all the time. It's called circumstantial evidence. But it's, and the Democrats are using this as their defense. They're saying there is not that direct finger point, as though there's no evidence of any criminality. But the goalposts keep moving. Didn't talk about him, didn't go into business with him, now didn't get money, is what Dan Goldman said. So they just keep trying and trying and trying away. And NY says, So Hunter and Archer were talking Cash App, or more likely they knew that they were under a microscope and they were talking in code. I don't know. Yeah, you could be right. Or Hunter is just a crackhead, and he's just on crack and he's like, I need money. So he's just sending people who he knows requests for money. And if you've ever known an addict, and I have, unfortunately, they're not often thinking right. So who knows? But my friends, those were very generous, very much appreciated super chats and donos from our Rumble friends. And we appreciate our locals friends. And let's say hello. Who do we got over on Rumble? Where's my chat over there? There it is. We got Donut Mind Me, Dog Digger. We've got Salty Sarge. I see Frank Quarters over there. A super buff guy is there. Yeah. We've got Frank's over there. Paul Blart's chatting away. TJ's in the house. We got one from Tricky that just came in. Tricky says, I see stuff being... Oh, we got that one. That one came in. Thank you for grabbing that one. Yeah, so good stuff. Okay, so my friends, I think that is about it for us. So we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We hope to see you there. If you haven't already joined as a member on YouTube or on Locals, we'd love it if you did. Great way to support our work. We do daily updates. We this morning talked about the various dockets, about the empty Congressional committee schedule. It's a great way to connect and have a little bit more of an intimate conversation. So come and join us. Also, don't forget our website, robertgovea.com. Would love it if you checked it out, read a report, shared it with somebody so that they could learn about the work that we're doing here. Don't forget to get your Field of Greens, courtesy of our friends at Field of Greens. And use code Robert when you check out so you can save that 15% off. And remember, the vegetables, they want to be eaten. Look how happy these are. Look at this little corn on the cob. Look at that guy. Delicious. All right, get your Field of Greens. Shout out to the mods and the meme smiths who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly here. We appreciate everybody, including our friends John McGarvey, Donut Mind Me, our friend Dog Digger, Janek909, John Allen in the house, Zach Nichols, Beyond Geostars, our friend Zulu, Ronnie Cole, Playin' Hooky, Just Cause, K-Bean, along with our friend Vientikis Prime, all modding down the fort for us on the daily. We've got our friends Meme Smith, Geegum Geegum, Nathan NA10, and Paul Mino, our friend Sleepy Dog Lee on Twitter. But that, on X, sorry, Elon, sorry. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to be back here tomorrow, same time, same place to do it all again. I hope you join us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video before you get on out of here. And I hope that you can bring somebody tomorrow and join us for the live stream so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.